Hi, welcome to the Animal Reader. The Animal Reader is an animal news organization based in the Netherlands, and we focus on animal news about animals all around the world. We're going to talk to Annelies Keuleers. She's from Sulala Animal Rescue. That's the only animal rescue shelter in Gaza. And the owner, Saeed Al Err, he is based in Gaza, and Annelies is doing the social media in Belgium. Welcome, Annelies. Just for our understanding, could you say something before the 7th of October? What does Saeed accomplish in Gaza for animals there?
So Saeed founded the only animal protection organization in Gaza. He founded it, I believe, in the early 2000s with a couple of friends because you need like multiple people to register a charity. And he used to he used to walk around in streets, take care, like do feed stray animals, take care of wounded and sick animals, put them with volunteers, put them in his own house. Since 2019, he was able to establish a shelter for the dogs to stay. He got a piece of land from one of the municipalities in Gaza, and from donations from people outside of Gaza and out of his own pocket, he established like a really big shelter the size of a football field, where he was keeping on the 7th of October, he was keeping around 400 dogs. He used to also just take all the cats to his own house. After a while, he got so many cats, this was unsustainable. So he started renting 2 houses to use as cat shelters. So he had 40 cats in his house and also 80 cats, 40 cats each in 2 other houses. And each one of his sons, he had one son living in each house for the cat shelter. So he was taking care of hundreds of animals, and he was also doing awareness sessions, or Sulala was doing awareness sessions. So volunteers used to visit schools to talk to children about the importance of treating animals correctly, about how this is in the Islamic religion, it is important to treat animals correctly, how when they see an animal on the streets, they should give it food, they should give it water. And he, this is what he already accomplished, and it's quite amazing, but he also had really big dreams of doing much more. Like he wanted to build like 5 more shelters. He really wanted there to be no more stray animals in all of Gaza. So he had really big dreams, but he accomplished a lot.
Is there an estimate on how many stray animals, stray dogs and cats Gaza has?
There's no official estimate, but it's millions. Really, we're talking about millions of stray dogs and cats. Like there's a huge stray animal population in Gaza that are not spayed and not neutered, and yeah, we're talking about millions.
Since the 7th of October, we've followed you on socials. You've posted on animals, and in the beginning it was mostly moving the 400 dogs from the shelter. You were very stressed in the beginning about those dogs. Where are all his stray animals at the moment?
So when the Israeli army gave an order to the whole of the north of the Gaza Strip to go south, first it was difficult to believe. First we thought, well, let's see if this is true. Then eventually it turned out to be true. Saeed's internet got cut, but at the end of the day, I got in touch with him, and I found out that he managed to get all the cats to safety. And well, the dogs were in the shelter, and they were still in a safe area during that time because most of the bombing was happening in the cities, and there was no ground invasion yet. So basically, as I told you, Saeed had 40 cats in his house and then was renting 2 other apartments to use as cat shelters. One of those cat shelters was south of the evacuation line. So Saeed managed to get all cats and bring them to the shelter in the south, where he's now also staying, with a couple of new rescued cats and also a couple of rescued puppies that he has picked up since. And the dogs are in the shelter was north of Wadi Gaza, but outside of the city. There was no bombing back then, and we had a shelter. One of our employees, he lived close to the shelter, and he was going to feed and check on the dogs every day. But a couple of weeks into the war and into the ground invasion, that employee was also, his name is Saeed. He was also forced to leave his house and to go take his children and wife to go shelter in a school. Eventually, he made his way to the shelter where Saeed is staying, so he is safe. But he had to leave the dogs behind. He left 30 bags of 20-kilogram food near the shelter, and also left a tap open and several barrels of water. He made like little openings in the bag so the dogs wouldn't eat everything at once. But you know, that was weeks ago, and since then we haven't been able to reach the shelter. They also have opened the shelter doors, so the dogs are not trapped. They won't starve. Since then, a couple of dogs have found their way to Saeed on their own, but like the majority of dogs, we don't really know how they are, and Saeed is extremely worried about them. So he would really like to be able to go to the north, and for that he needs a ceasefire or some kind of permit from the army to be able to go there. But he also went to the dog shelter and got the disabled dogs from there. The disabled dogs were in a separate space, and Saeed picked them up because he knew they wouldn't be able to survive on the streets if they would be forced to, you know. So he made a small temporary shelter in an open place of land close to the cat shelter, and they built like a shed there so they can shelter from the rain the dogs. And he has like 20 disabled dogs there now, and disabled dogs in a sense, they have like their hind legs are paralyzed, they are missing a leg, or there's also Lucy, her front legs are paralyzed. So these dogs are a bit more vulnerable, and also managed to get them to safety.
Yeah, that is also something your organization has advised anybody there with pets or anybody who has to release the animals. That's the best chance you can give them.
Yeah. Well, it's the only thing somebody can do, especially because like a lot of people have been taking their cats into shelters, but a dog, you can't really take that into a shelter. They're too big. Well, other people wouldn't always appreciate it if you take your dog to the shelter. So it's the best chance you can give them at a life. Like Saeed has actually already found animals that belong to friends of him, and has taken them in and is taking care of them until the end of the war, until they can be returned to their owner. Sometimes it's also, if you have like 5 minutes to evacuate your house before it's going to be bombed, you don't really have that much of a choice other than to set your animal free. And I don't think it's an easy choice for anybody who owns a pet, but it's really the only thing you can do in those circumstances.
Yeah,
we also receive a lot of messages in Arabic from people that are asking if we've seen their pets, or if we can go help their pets because their pet is still stuck in the north of Gaza. Unfortunately, it's quite difficult, but we can't, like Saeed can't move around. So
you were interviewed by Belgian media, and you gave a quote on how animals also feel when bombs are coming or they hear sounds.
Yeah, Saeed talks a lot about that. Like, apparently, when a warplane flies over, right before they make a certain sound, and right before the bomb drops, the sound of the plane changes, and at that moment, everybody feels this bomb is gonna drop on my head. And everybody's terrified, and animals are just as terrified as humans. So you can see in animals that they start crying, they start hiding. They are also used to the sound of these warplanes and the sound of bombs dropping, and they feel exactly the same fear as humans.
Can I say something about how animals experience something like this?
Yeah, well, it's absolutely terrible, you know, like it's unspeakable, the tragedy and the pain of war. Like, a lot of people have left their houses and have not set their animals free. So probably a lot of dogs have been tied up in the north. A lot of cats have been left inside of houses, and they're probably they're already dead. You know, we know many volunteers. We have many volunteers, people who have been feeding cats in the area around their houses. Those people are not there anymore, and most of the houses in the north of Gaza are bombed. So those cats, like, you can only imagine how lost they feel, and these dogs, like, it's like really unthinkable, like the effect of war on these innocent animals. And the first thing Saeed told me when the news broke that there was a war at the morning of the 7th of October, the first thing he told me, I need to get extra food for the animals. So he bought like a huge amount of food because it's lasting really long. He managed to buy a really big amount of food and secured it. And yeah, basically it's running out now because nothing new is coming in. Saeed has been distributing food to people who have cats and dogs because it's not available in pet shops anymore. But since a week also, Saeed has started telling people that he can't give them food anymore because the food for our own animals is running out. Yeah. So yeah, it's really it's a really upsetting issue, and we're asking people to just contact people in charge, people with power.
You posted a video recently on Saeed. He rescued a donkey, and he showed that he was having bad wounds on his body, but he was very happy to help this donkey. How is the donkey doing? And could you tell something more about donkeys and horses in Gaza?
So first of all, the donkey is already doing much better. His wounds have been cleaned. The wounds were very dirty, so they had to clean it for a long, it really was a lot of work to clean the wounds. We gave him food, we gave him water, and he already looks better somehow. We're of course also treating him for his mange. So this donkey, we've helped him, and Saeed told me I was so happy. For a moment, I felt like there was no war and I was in a different country, and I was so happy. But then, unfortunately, like later, he said I got sad again because I remembered all the other animals in the war and all the humans and animals suffering. In general, like donkeys and horses have been a major source of worry and pain for Saeed because he says every time I step outside my door, I see a disaster. Like these horses and donkeys, because there's no fuel entering the Gaza Strip. These donkeys and horses are taxis. They have to carry around water because there's also the water supply is also limited. Also because of the fuel, because the desalination plant in Gaza is not working anymore. They have to carry around humans, and they have to carry around very big barrels of water, and they also don't have food because animal food hasn't entered the Gaza Strip. So Saeed has been extremely angry, upset, in pain, seeing all these animals suffering and being unable to do anything about it.
And how many animals have died so far? Could you say something about that? Is there a number on that?
No, it's really impossible to know how many animals have died. We don't even know how many humans are under the rubble. There's probably also so many animals under the rubble. Like you see videos shared on social media of wounded animals. They actually absolutely break your heart. You never know whether to send it to Saeed because I know it will really hurt him. And he won't be able to do most of the time because he can't move around. He can't do that much about it. I imagine thousands of animals have died. Thousands, definitely thousands, because also many animals have starved because they have been separated from their owner, and animals have died in the bombings. We see many people taking care of animals. Many people are bringing, are carrying their dogs and their cats for kilometers when they're trying to get to safety. Many people are, despite the fact that there's a war going on, are still thinking about how will I help animals. Many children have come to Saeed to pick up food to feed stray animals. So there's so many people in Gaza that are taking really great care of animals. There's also 2 million people 2 million people in Gaza. So everybody is a unique individual and has its own perceptions towards animals. But we especially before the war, Saeed I know for sure Saeed has had a really positive impact on the community. I used to sometimes see messages, I remember once seeing a message in Arabic from a man saying there's so many stray dogs in my area. I'm so sick of this. If you don't help us, if you don't come pick up these dogs, I'm going to start shooting them because I want to protect my family. I remember being angry reading that message. And a few hours later or a day later, I asked Saeed about it. Or I told Saeed, like, somebody sent this message and made me angry. And he said, oh, that man, oh, he's great. I talked to him. He's going to help me pick up the dogs. So Saeed as a person, he's also just, he's very good at impacting people's behavior in a good way, and approaching them in a way that doesn't antagonize them or would make them more angry, but would actually make them reconsider. Most people have a lot of kindness in their hearts, and most people have a lot to, can still learn a lot about treating animals correctly. So he did have before the war, I know Saeed had a really big impact on the way that animals and children, the way that humans and children treat animals. And during this war, honestly, we see every day the people that are treating animals really well. And I'm sure the number is increasing every day with Saeed just talking to people.
Where does this come? Where does this come from him? I've been following it since this started. I follow you daily, and I'm amazed by, even in this extreme suffering, he still cares for not even his own animals, for his shelter animals, but also for all animals.
Yeah, I think even like Saeed is suffering like everyone, but most of Saeed's suffering right now comes from the fact that he feels responsible over these animals. He doesn't have a choice. He wouldn't be able to say, okay, now I'm only going to think about myself. For him, it's very natural. It's part of who he is. And so he, years ago, when I don't even know when, maybe in the 90s, 80s, he took a dog training course in Russia. He was part of the Palestinian Authority. This was part of a training organized for them. And he learned a lot about dogs in this training. And since then he's realized like how dogs can be amazing friends. And ever since then he's felt like, I need to do something to structurally improve the situation of animals in Gaza. And yeah, it's just part of who he is. Like everything about Saeed is about animals, like. Also, if I have access to the Sulala social media, the pages he follows, it's all animal pages. When a couple of years ago, was it in 2020 or 2021, there were bushfires in Australia. His profile picture was a kangaroo, like fleeing from the fire. He's not even only thinking about animals in Gaza. He just feels bad for any animal everywhere in the world that suffers. And he also always tells me that any person who is kind to animals is a friend of his. So it's just part of his being.
That's really beautiful.
Yeah.
What is I know there's a lot of animal lovers all over the world. Your DMs must be completely full, but people want to do something. But you already said animal food, it's not on the list now, but what can people, so is it sending money? What can people do?
Yeah. Well, it's true that we get so many messages from people asking to help. I think all of us feel very powerless right now, all over the world, seeing what's happening in Gaza. And what we tell people is, please help put pressure to open the borders or to open the checkpoints. And also, if like other than that, please donate to us. A lot of people want to come to Gaza and volunteer, but this has never been possible. Also before the war, I've never been able to go to Gaza because you need a permit, and you only get permits if you work for United Nations, the Red Cross, like these big organizations, or if you have an Israeli press card. And I had neither. So you can donate and you can help put pressure to push those in charge to send in animal aid. Like what people in Gaza need most, including Saeed, is for the bombs to stop, like just so they can have a breath of air, so they can go see the damage, go see their houses. And for what the thing that's on Saeed's mind all the time is the fact that he wants to go north because he wants to go find the dogs and get them to safety, the dogs from the shelter. Like we know they're no longer in the shelter. They've probably they're probably roaming all over the Gaza Strip right now looking for food. That's also why already 3 dogs have found Saeed in the central area where he's staying now. But we really need a ceasefire, and we need a permit from the, like, we really want a permanent ceasefire, but in case of a temporary ceasefire, we really want a permit from the Israeli army to allow Saeed to go to the north. Saeed has made like many plans thinking about how to get to the dogs that have been roaming around the north, because the Israeli army is occupying that, and it's very dangerous to go there right now. He was thinking, I can go to the border, I can yell with a microphone. I can get a microphone and yell, so the dogs would find me. It hasn't really worked yet. He was also thinking I should get an ambulance and go to the north and go find the dogs. I should throw clothes that have my scent to the other side. But all that was really not possible. And those are all things that Saeed was thinking about during the temporary ceasefire that lasted how long? 5 days a week.
Yeah.
But now, like, because of the bombs, it's not possible any way to move around. So we need for the bombs to stop. We want to like permanent ceasefire. If we can't have a permanent ceasefire, at least a temporary ceasefire, and the ability to move north to go get animals to safety. Saeed even made a team. Like, he made a team of people that would be ready from the moment they would be able to go to the north, to go with different cars, to be able to pick up as many wounded animals as possible. So Saeed is